Wonderful. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our Tech for Society workshop today. We're very pleased to have you all on board and to have everyone locked in, and really looking forward to today's session. Before I hand over to Laura, who is the host and chair of today's session, just a few words on Tech for Society. But let me first introduce Laura, and then we'll go on. Laura is not just a digital native, but a digital enthusiast, and she has a degree in business informatics, has been working in the private sector in the digital private sector, but she's also got a great passion for policy making and politics, and she's working with the Green Party in Berlin and on the federal level, and she also seeks to become a member of the parliament during next year's election. Before I hand over to her, just a few words on Tech for Society and what this is all about. So we have initiated this consortium with a very diverse partnership last year, and the mission of Tech for Society is to promote a dialogue on value-based approach to technological change. What do we mean by this? Well, what we mean is that we don't just want to think innovation and new technologies from how they are developed in very smart universities and by smart engineers, but also how we can design technologies so that they serve society as a whole. And here we have a mission statement where we want to promote economic progress, where we want to promote social cohesion, and where we want to promote individual being. So if we have conversations and an exchange about how we can design new technologies so that they serve these three dimensions, we are not just very happy, but also believe that we can make a significant contribution to some of the debates that are going on, but also to the world of politics and the policymakers who are setting the framework for how innovations can be fostered in today's economies. And we had a kickoff last year with Jeff Mulgan and Patricia Nance on value creation, where one of the lessons of the kickoff meeting was that we need to rethink the role of governments and the role of the state in fostering innovation and in adding social value to new technologies. So today we are very delighted to have a substantial and substantive conversation about how we can do this, how we can rethink a state, what kind of services a state can and must deliver using new technologies. And we would like to find answers to the two questions of, firstly, how new technologies can promote social cohesion, transparency, and also trust in state institutions. But we also want to be a bit more practical and talk about specific examples and have a look at different cities and at different innovations who've made that possible, especially in the domain of public administration. So we are very happy that you're all on board, and we're really looking forward to the conversations with you. And just one last sentence, we are very happy that we have such a diverse consortium of partners behind us, from the public sector, from the private sector, but also from the world of civil society and academia, who are helping us out to shape the agenda, not just of today's conversation, but from about the whole Tech for Society series. And we're really looking forward to working with you in the future. So that's from my side, and I'm handing over to Laura, and thanks so much, and enjoy, everyone.
Thank you, Florian. Well, also very warm welcome from my side. Thank you for the introduction, Florian. I think a digital enthusiast should be, I should make that a title somehow. I'm really pleased and honored that I can host this session today. These topics are all, for me personally, but also as a citizen, extremely relevant. And I guess we all know by now, latest by now, the pandemic made it even more obvious how important a robust digital infrastructure is, not just for the private sector, but also for the public sector. Before I go into introducing our fantastic speakers today, 2 quick comments on our setup. So the whole workshop is structured in 2 sessions. We have our public session that's also live streamed right now. And then we will have a smaller session with breakouts where we go into discussion and share again. During the 2 keynotes that we will have, you can ask questions in the chat. We will collect them and then try to collect for each speaker 2 or 3 questions to answer them. Of course, we want to stay in our time frame. So we'll try to make that quick, but still in depth. Then, I'll start with introductions. I'm very excited to hear Professor Dr. Beth Simone Novak speaking, who is the director of the Governance Lab. The Governance Lab has the mission to find out how we can make government more effectively and efficiently through technology, a very important question these days. She also served as the first US CTO, of course not the first American, but the first state CTO under President Obama. She also serves as the CIO, Chief Innovation Officer of New Jersey, and our Chancellor here in Germany, Angela Merkel, appointed her to the Digitalrat. A very warm welcome to you, Beth. Great to have you here. And then our second speaker is Dr. Markus Richter, State Secretary of the German Minister of Interior, Building and Community, also known as das Innenministerium. He is also the federal government commissioner for information technology. Markus Richter is a very experienced leader when it comes to government-related IT. He held various positions as IT manager and CIO in federal ministries and the administration. So really can give us a in-depth Einblick. I assume most of you are German speakers. With that, I would just hand over to Beth and give the stage to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Florian. Ich sage zuerst danke für die Einladung und Florian sagt mir, ich soll und ich darf auf Englisch sprechen. Also Sie sind alle für die nächsten 8 Minuten von mir gerettet. Aber aus meiner Sicht können Sie gerne jedoch Kommentare bzw. Fragen in deutscher Sprache abgeben. Okay, I continue in English and I'll just make sure that we can pull up the slides. We will just give it a second. Thank you. I'll go ahead and get started, and Ani is from the GovLab is going to be kind enough to drive the slides for me to make things a little easier for me. Okay, so we all know these are very, very tumultuous days that we're living in. We are experiencing crisis after crisis. Global deaths from COVID-19 are approaching 1 million. They've just announced this morning that we have 200,000 deaths in the United States alone. We have seen, not just in the United States, but all over the world, the demonstrations from systemic racism and against police brutality that have been erupting everywhere following the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, which, at least in our country, is the latest in a long line of police killings that have really exposed the depth of racial injustice and discrimination that exists in America, but also, as we've seen, discrimination against a variety of groups worldwide. We have, of course, the persistent and existential threat of climate change against which this crisis is unfolding. And of course, the now 30-year process of declining and really stagnant wages and widening economic inequality that plagues us. So it's no wonder that with some notable exceptions during the coronavirus crisis, and Germany is one of them, that in too many countries, people's response to government is a lack of trust. The view is that government at its best is ineffectual. So we're facing these very complex societal challenges, a global health crisis compounded by an economic recession. These are challenges that have no easy answer. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. There's no quick fix at the ballot box. There's really this persistent sense that government is failing us when it needs to be doing better. And of course, I'm reminded of the quote, one that's being brought back very often now, at least in the United States, of a quote from Ronald Reagan, that in his first inaugural address, you may recall, he said, "Government is not the solution to the problem, government is the problem." Or, Thatcher around the same time, to bring things back to Europe, of course, said the market is a more powerful and more reliable liberating force than government can ever be. So this trend towards distrust in government is really not something new. It's been something that's unfolding since the early 80s. But I would argue that Reagan and Thatcher were wrong, that it is true that government can indeed be the problem. But I'm quite certain now, and we've seen this in the successful responses to COVID where they have occurred, that government must and can be and often is the solution. And in fact, without government, it's really hard to see how we can solve some of these challenges at all. The famous anthropologist Margaret Mead once said that we should never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, she said, it's the only thing that ever has. And many of Mead's thoughtful and committed citizens, I think their numbers are not small, they work inside government. Of course, many also work in the nonprofit sector and the private sector. Many are just ordinary people in their own communities who want to make a difference. They're public problem solvers who really want to live lives of purpose and who, in this day and age of crisis, and with the access to new technology and new information, and above all, technologies for collaboration, really have the opportunity to do so. So let me just give a couple of quick examples. I don't think you mentioned it at the beginning, but is in addition to my work as a professor and my honor to serve on the Digitalrat in Germany, I also have the privilege to lead a team of engineers and designers and policy professionals in the new Office of Innovation in the state of New Jersey. And when the pandemic hit back in March, we were able to use technology and data, and importantly, unprecedented levels of collaboration with communities to really demonstrate how government can be nimble and effective instead of just a lumbering, unresponsive bureaucracy. So a few quick examples. We turned to the nonprofit Federation of American Scientists, and we built a website and an Alexa skill to enable the public to ask questions about the virus, and put together a network of over 600 scientists to research their answers to those questions rapidly. We then also turned to a private sector company, and we got the tech and, importantly, the talent that we needed to create a website, covid19.nj.gov, in 3 days. And in the few months since that site was stood up, we've had almost 12 million individual users. That's in a state of 8.5 million people. Even more challenging, though, than standing up the technology was getting government agencies to put their content there, to share all their information that people would need in one place. So we turned to the state's universities, and we put together a team of about 75 different students to go get that content from different government agencies, and perhaps more importantly, translate it from government into English so that ordinary people could understand it. We also collaborated across levels of government with the federal government's digital service, which is a unit within the Office of the President, to make fixes to the state's process of certifying for unemployment. As you know, unemployment went from 3% to over 16%, and we had the challenge of just the website crashing all the time. So we needed to make that easier for people and deal with the tech situation. So while I'm enormously proud of what we were able to do, I have to say it was insignificant compared, first of all, with all that we needed to do, and more importantly, compared with the outpouring of volunteer efforts in response to the pandemic. The unique conditions, though, that we had that were created by the pandemic allowed us, though, to really bust through normal barriers and to get things done quickly. But these conditions, this need for innovation need not only happen when there's a crisis. And in my work in the governance lab, I see a lot of this so-called public problem solving, or what the Nobel Prize winning economist Elinor Ostrom called public entrepreneurship, in governments all around the world all the time. And perhaps more than anyone, Ostrom really helped to publicize this notion of public entrepreneurship and the fact that that government leaders can be innovative. So I've met pioneers like the people in Mexico City who have been able to do things like crowdsource their new constitution using the voice and power of ordinary people to bring more legitimacy to the process. In Helsinki, the mayor's office created the climate watch process, where public servants and citizens are co-designing and co-creating the climate change plan and allowing the citizens to hold government accountable for the Climate Watch's 147 target goals. In California, there's a national program that was built by a fire chief who created an app to enable anyone who was trained in cardiopulmonary resuscitation and CPR to come to the aid of victims of sudden cardiac arrest, which is the third leading cause of death in the United States. Over 100,000 lives have been saved through this process. So let me just close out my few minutes by saying that these public entrepreneurs who are, I think, innovative problem solvers are people who know above all how to take a project from idea to implementation. And they do this in a couple of key ways that I just want to name before I end here. First, what they can do is they really know how to define a problem. They know how to define a problem that's urgent, that matters to real people, and that can be resolved. They know how to use data and data analysis in order to understand the breadth and the nature of the problem. They also are people who don't work behind closed doors in the way we used to in the past. They know how to design interventions in partnership with those they're trying to help. They also know how to turn to the collective intelligence and collective action of communities, not just to identify problems, but also to solve them. They also know how to take advantage of new technology to do what I would call rapid evidence review. That is to scan for the best available ideas and the best people who already know what's worked, and to put those ideas into practice. They know how to construct partnerships and to build with teams and to work across disciplines and across sectors to know how to really implement changes at scale. And finally, they know how to measure what works. They know how to use experimental techniques to evaluate what's working, or to move away from what's working and to correct course. These skills, though, are not intuitive. And for every person I meet who has made an effective change, I meet 10 who have the desire, but don't have the capacity to make a difference. Our democracies really urgently need to produce citizens, especially public servants, who can move from demanding change to making it. And if we're to do more than to just vote occasionally or shout into the wind on Twitter or post on Facebook, more of us, especially in government, need to be able to take an initiative from idea to reality. That's going to require taking advantage of technology, of data, and above all of the collective intelligence of our communities to allow us to do good. And I would say we all now want to do good, but we all really now very much want to do better. So let me stop with that. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth. That was very interesting, inspiring, and yeah, hopefully motivating for many of us here. I would hand over straight to Markus Richter to give us his insights from the German perspective. Markus, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you can see me. I'm not sure, but at least you can hear me.
We can hear you. Currently, we cannot see you.
Okay, now you can see me. Great. Okay. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to address you and giving an insight of what's going on in the German public administration. And Beth, thank you also for your insights and thank you for supporting us here. Because we can learn out of what you just mentioned. There's so much we can learn from you and your work, and that's why we are in an exchange. Right now, I took over just recently the position of CIO in Germany. And as you can imagine, many people come to me and say and tell me what to do next. And I think we have to make clear in the first step that we are now in the situation that we have to do things. We are in the time that we've got, it's not a problem of money, it's not a problem of being aware of what should happen. It's a thing of just doing. And of course, there are so many stakeholders involved within Germany that it's important that we've got a common sense of where we want to go. So the first question is, what digitization can bring to us, and why are we doing digitization? Because digitization is not a purpose on its own. It is a purpose to help people to get rid of problems and make their life easier, like skipping distances or having access to funding, being able to participate, to getting information earlier. So there is a variety of fields we are confronted with, and I think we are doing well by undertaking small steps and step after step. That's why we also did a brief review on what happened in the last month, due to the fact that also Corona, of course, shows us very clear what should be done next. And therefore we developed a 9 bullet point program of small steps, but steps which can make the world different within Germany and also within Europe, because I'm convinced that we have to find our European way of doing the digitization. You know, within Europe, digitization shouldn't be a purpose of being able to receive payers or other purposes. No, we are doing it to save the free room, the free space of the internet, and being able to address these needs I just mentioned. And therefore, I think we have to define our European way, and maybe we have also to regulate some fields to save this free space, which we need, especially in the view on Corona and other challenges we are facing to make life better. Therefore, we have this 9-point program, and we are addressing topics which concerns the digital society. Others, they are related to the digital public service. And then we've got the third field of security in the cyber room, because something we learned, for instance, out of the Corona app we implemented within Germany, that we can only have acceptance by the people when we also think of the data protection and also the security of solutions. Only by doing this and having these thoughts implemented in the architecture, we make sure that we can find the acceptance we need for our solutions. And within these points, there are quite important things like creating an EID. Of course, we have already within Europe solutions for having electronic ID, but it's not really implemented in the practical life of people right now, within Germany at least. And therefore, we just implemented a new project group within the German government. It just started 2 weeks ago, and we address, on the one hand, the user experience. So how can I use my ID card with its electronic functions to have to use it for an ID process. and how can I use new technologies like blockchain and things like these, SSI, for a decentralized identity. We will address, and of course we cannot only do it by ourselves, but we need also the economy. People within Germany might use the public administration once or twice a year. That's not enough to have this digital identity, you know, and therefore we need more use cases, and we can only find them by having a close cooperation with the economy. And therefore I'm glad that also the Chancellor within Germany, the German Chancellor, takes over this issue, addressing also the economy, and we will coming together to work out further use cases. This is only one example. Beside of this, I think it's important that we are having this European way. Therefore, we are preparing Berlin Declaration during our presidency of the EU right now. And within this Berlin Declaration, we are also addressing these values like democracy and anti-discrimination when we do this digitization. And I'm pretty glad that also the other member states are involved and want to push it forward. In these, I think in the end, when we achieve all these 9 points in my program, but also these European projects, I'm pretty sure we can achieve great things. But in the end, we have to get people involved. It's we don't achieve anything if we have great digital solutions, but no one is using it. You know, we've got so many services, public services, which we have to digitize, but many of them address people who are not so close to IT or digital solutions, and therefore we have to find a way to address them and to get them involved also in decision-making processes. And also therefore we want to use platforms and also networks which already exist to make these things happen. And we also have to change the way of how we are working within the public administration. Therefore, we want to implement a digital academy to also address our servants to give them the skills they need in this digitized world. It's not a question of having skills how to use a computer, but it's a question on how can I survive in a quick world, where how can I adapt easily, and how can I use technical support for the purpose I'm working on and the field I'm working in. These are things we want to address with this digital academy. We are right now going into the concepts and then the implementation. So there are many things to do. Nothing I can do on my own. It's impossible to have also a coalition of people, stakeholders who want to push it forward. I'm pretty glad that we just recently had a great common decision also with the states within Germany, the Bundesländer. And we have now a great opportunity because, first of all, there's a political attention to this topic. The people are waiting for solutions due to the lessons learned out of Corona. And we've got great people doing it here. And all we have to make sure now is that we are now in the time of just doing. And therefore, I think we have to address and undertake projects where we can see the results out of it within the next month, so that we show, okay, we are really going forward, and that we create a culture of digitization within German society and the Europe society. So thank you so much. so far.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Two great keynotes. And now we would open the floor, the virtual floor, for a quick round of Q&A. I know you both are on a tight schedule, but I think it would be very interesting to have some interaction. There is one question in the chat already. I'm inviting everyone to feel free to ask questions in the chat. Or just also use any hand-raising function or write your name in the chat if you would like to speak up. Alexander Sich asked in the chat that both of you are pointing out the need to move from demanding change to change and doing things now. The question is, do you see the bigger challenge in identifying the most needed use cases, or rather in developing the bigger picture and the required cross-agency, cross-level support for an agile and resilient administration? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, maybe I start, Beth. From my point of view, it's something also new to me, how big this field is, you know, because there are so many stakeholders. And so what we have to make sure is that everything fits together in the end. It doesn't help us if, for instance, the cities within Germany create solutions, but they're not talking to each other. And so if you move from one city to another, you're not able to take your data with you. And therefore, we've got several legislation acts now on the way, but also a big program. What we need now is, beside of IT solutions, the political attention, the money, of course, is the business sides. You know, we need the other ministries who are in charge for specific topics, that they get involved. And therefore, I'm very happy that we had, I think 2 weeks ago, a meeting with all the other ministries, and we find a clear position there that they are understanding digitization as their own responsibility. And digitization has, in the first step, nothing to do with IT. It's a question of doing it on the business side, so on the clear understanding of the own responsibilities. And therefore we need the experts in specific topics like family, housing. We need these people who are in charge, and that they understand digitization as their own responsibility. And that's why I'm very glad, and I think it's the first time in Germany that we've got this common sense from the federal government to the states within Germany, or these different ministries down to the cities, and we have to use this window of opportunity to bring it further now.
Thank you, Marcus. Beth, what is your take on working on use cases versus defining the bigger picture first?
Yes, yes, and so first I want to thank Marcus for his remarks, and also for his really path-breaking work with the Digital Academy project. I think, and I should have made clear that it was the reason I chose very much to talk about the role of skills and the role of training. I think is really the most fundamental thing we can do to change that big picture. The famous futurist, architect, and inventor Buckminster Fuller, who invented the geodesic dome, was fond of an expression that he called, I'll put it in the chat, because even if you have English as a first language, you wouldn't know what this is, the trim tab rudder, unless you are a sailor. So it's the little rudder on a ship that moves the big ship. I don't even know, I'm not even sure I've spelled it in English correctly, and I definitely don't know the German for the sailing term. But the idea is that the small change of really focusing on individual skills and capacity really is the first step in making these bigger institutional changes. But I think Alexander's question is really important, because you can do all the training you want of individuals, and if you don't create an environment for innovation, if you don't create an environment in which people can use these skills, you won't get anywhere. So I think he's right, though. I think the question includes the answer, which is number one, to start with the use cases of where you can have success, where you can tackle projects. Just to come back to an example that I mentioned and something that we're working on now, you know, unemployment is an issue that is universal, is now having to deal with fixing unemployment systems that are designed to handle a certain load. And now, you know, exploding unemployment means these systems are breaking. Oh, thank you, Trimruder. Thank you. Good to know. Good to know. And so we can identify that use case and work on it and pilot it in one jurisdiction or two or three in an effort then to create a solution that will work nationwide. You know, we are working on a project in the States that they're also working on in France, which has also been worked on in the UK. And we're all talking to one another about virtual coaching for the unemployed, how to provide digital services to people who are unemployed to help them with their job search. So there's a wonderful project out of France called Bob Emploi. And it has been the subject of and the award of a challenge from the Royal Society for the Arts in London. And we have a project called the New Jersey Career Network. Again, the whole idea is that this is a use case that then has very broad applicability. And this idea was really very much not pioneered, but really put into practice by the digital director in the UK a few years ago, when he said, look, every agency needs an alert. Every agency needs a way to email people. Every agency needs this or that, and we can build things that will scale. So all of this to say, I think the use cases point is incredibly important, but we have to do it in parallel with looking at these broader issues of funding, politics, collaboration, skill building, so that we really try to build systemic change. So I'm sorry that I can't pick between the two, but I think the two together work very well to build practical change in reality, and to also show it's possible. Because we can do all of this work in training people in new skills, but we have to be able to demonstrate that learning these new skills leads to better outcomes. It doesn't just lead to more training courses.
Thank you, both of you. I think both of your answers were much more helpful than just a simple A or B. Then we have another raised hand from Boris von Chlebowski. I think we can unmute you. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Better than to see me. Does not recall Ronald Reagan's quote that governments are the problem. This is, of course, wrong. And because the government not only has a responsibility for welfare, it has a responsibility for innovation if it sees itself as an activating state. And after all, citizens want to see that technologies contribute solutions to their concrete problems. At the latest, at the health authorities, which have to ensure that COVID-19 patients can be tracked quickly. Here, at the latest, it is visible that technologies contribute in a very concrete way to the protection of human life and working for society. Not so long ago, we heard from administrative representatives that it is not their job to be innovative.
Marcus, let me briefly interrupt. Sorry, Boris, let me briefly interrupt, but I see that Marcus is getting up and I know that you have to leave. So I just wanted to give you a chance to say bye.
Thank you so much. And Mr. von Chlebowski, great to hear you. Hope we see us soon again. Thank you to all of you. Bye-bye. Sorry.
I just want to mention that this thinking, even that of Ronald Reagan, belongs to the past. And it's good that the government itself is now building up innovative competences with young people by initiatives like Next or Tech for Germany. And institutions like these, plus science, plus civil society, are a great coalition. And I'm very confident that we have now, and we can now register a shift of minds. That's just a comment.
Thank you very much. also a very important comment. I assume that most of us here agree. I currently cannot.
A question back. I'm just curious, in the United States, we have the big challenge that at least at the federal level, the workforce is aging. I believe when last I checked, only 5% of the federal workforce was under the age of 30. Now, it's not as I get older, I would like to think you don't have to be young to be innovative, but there surely is a correlation between knowledge of new technologies, cybersecurity, and other new talents, and the age of the workforce. I'm just wondering if that's a similar challenge in Germany. I don't know the statistics.
Thank you. Florian, I think the message you just sent me was maybe meant for Beth. As there are currently no more questions in the chat and we have a few more interesting sessions coming up, we would invite you, Beth, to stay on if you have the time. We will have a couple of cases from Barcelona and Helsinki, just for under 5 minutes each. And it's going to be Isabella Longo, project manager from Habitat in the Barcelona City Council, and Ossi Korhonen, consultant with Demos in Helsinki, who will give us a quick lightning talks about 2 cases in Barcelona and Helsinki. If you have the time, I'd be happy to keep you here in the conference. But of course, we understand if you have to run elsewhere. But anyway, if you stay or not, thank you so much, Beth, for your time and for your presentation, and of course, most of all, for your work that you do in New Jersey, but also, as we know now, even more internationally around the globe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we follow closely what happens in Barcelona and Helsinki, so I'm eager to hear the next talks.
Perfect. Then I would hand right over to Isabella, who joins us from Barcelona.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you for inviting Barcelona City Council to join this workshop. Thanks, Beth and Marcus, for this very inspirational speech that you have. I've written down a lot of things in order to see if we can improve some new idea in the Barcelona City Council. So, very quickly, in Barcelona this year, we've been shifting from the idea of smart city to the idea of smart citizen. That means that technology has to be at the service of people's need and to see how technology can ensure a better quality of life. That is what our proposal actually is to humanize technology. That is our main goal that we have in Barcelona City Council in that moment. Under this idea, we are focusing on the ethic of the digital right, and it leads us to what we are developing as a public policy that is a plan of digital inclusion. Actually, after the lockdown, we see and we know how digital dimension is gaining more and more importance in our daily basis. So we've been forced, actually, what we decide is to understand what is happening and which is the digital gap in our society in order to involve as much people as we can in this digital dimension, because we know that there's a correlation between digital inclusion and social inclusion. So we see as how new technology is not only it is not only producing discrimination, but this kind of new discrimination because of the lack of 3 main things: connection, devices, and knowledge. What we understand the digital exclusion is. So I would like just to highlight a few examples example of practices that we are developing in the Barcelona City Council in order to fight for this digital gap, in order to have many people out of the gap. So there's the first one. We are reinforcing the network of public Fab Lab. You know that I guess we are one of the few cities in Europe that we have these public equipment that are Fab Lab, that is a place where technology it is at the center of everything, and the technology is used as a creating like a digital ecosystem where citizens can have the access not only to technology, but it is like a tool for social inclusion and social cohesion as well. During lockdown, we see as a very big community of what we call Corona makers have been involved in a collaborative way in order to produce a lot of tools to help the situation of lockdown using this public equipment. This is what for us is a good example of technology for social inclusion. Another example of a good practice that we have is an initiative called Proactive City. It is like a bottom-up call for grants with the aim of providing financial and technical support to the local innovative ecosystem to develop and implement high-level impact projects. That is to say, we know which the problems are, but we would like to ask the society to propose, and we foster the idea and the power of society in order to make the project be possible. Another few examples that we have is a platform I would like to highlight. The name is the CIDIM. It is a digital platform for citizen participation. For us, it's like a self-organized, democratically tools for everybody that is actually used both for cities or for organization. And it is being reproduced in some other cities of all around Europe and Latin America, I guess as well, to enforce and to spread this participatory process to as much people as possible. So this is few examples that I would like to explain in order to not to use so much time.
Thank you very much, Isabella, for that dense input. Maybe if you could share a few links in the chat. I think all of us would be interested to check out these examples more.
Yes.
Then to keep in our tight schedule, I would hand over straight to Ossi Korhonen, who is joining us from Helsinki today.
Yes, thank you. And hi, happy to be here. Very much agree on everything that has been said so far. Very interesting presentations and very important points of view and aspects to consider here in Helsinki as well. So my name is Ossi Korhonen and I work for a think tank and consultancy hybrid here in Helsinki. And I'll share my screen. Or host has disabled screen sharing, so maybe I won't be sharing my screen, but I'll briefly explain what we've been doing in Helsinki through one case example.
Just became co-host. If you try again, it should work now.
Okay, great. Is anything happening? Yes, good. All right, should work.
Yes, looks good.
Perfect. Okay, so briefly, since I only have a few minutes, I'll explain through one case example of what we've been doing in Helsinki related to these topics. And as Beth mentioned, we need an environment for innovation that is very, very crucial for anything to happen. Skills and technology alone just aren't enough. And as Marcus mentioned also that we need to get people involved. And Boris's point was also very important, that governments are responsible for innovation. So these are the topics that I'll be touching on today. quickly, we worked with the city of Helsinki to create a model for employee-driven innovation. The challenge was that the city of Helsinki had recognized, as so many cities have, that the continuous innovation and development of new services and solutions is very crucial for a successful city organization, and so it is for Helsinki as well. But although employees in theory were encouraged to innovate and share their ideas, in practice, no shared successful models for implementing or even progressing their ideas existed. Some key challenges that we recognized when we went deeper into that problem is that there was no platform for sharing ideas or recording ideas, no model for choosing and prioritizing them, no model for taking chosen ideas further, no model for allocating sufficient resources for innovation work, and there was also a lack of expertise within the employees themselves. So the solution that we started to work on together with employees of City of Helsinki and a group of experts was to create an internal accelerator to support the development and piloting of ideas. And the key building blocks of that model, I'll just go through them very quickly here, were that first we needed to create a digital platform for sharing and storing the ideas that people, employees or citizens had, and also a place where important information related to those ideas could be gathered and shared. Next, we needed to create some structure and a model to then actually choose from that very long list of ideas and challenges what should be chosen for further development, what makes strategic sense, but what's also interesting to learn from. So we created a platform for that, and within that platform there was an application form where you could actually explain a bit more in detail about what the idea or what the challenge is that you're interested in and how possibly it could be tackled, and a few other key questions, but keeping it light at that point. And after that, after the initial ideas were recognized that had some potential, additional sparring clinics and support for ideation and planning of concrete pilots that could then be where those ideas could then be tested were created. And after that point, after the pilot plans were formed, the best ones of them, or the most potential ones of them, were actually given funding so those pilots could move forward. But we didn't leave it at the funding part, but we also offered support throughout the planning, execution, and documentation parts of those pilots. And lastly, throughout the whole program, continuous, active, and transparent communication was a very crucial part. So why is this relevant, especially for today's topic? Here's a few points that I picked out. The model created for Helsinki increases transparency and trust through sharing of resources, experiences, and know-how within the city organization and with partners and stakeholders involved in the program or the pilots. It also helps turn ideas of citizens or employees to concrete solutions faster. And thus, employees and citizens' ideas are not only heard, but actually acted upon. And hopefully that also increases trust. The process and its results are openly shared and actively communicated. And hopefully that also helps increase trust and transparency within the government and within the organization of City of Helsinki. So I'll leave you with this. Hopefully that was within the 4 to 5 minute mark, and happy to talk and share more ideas related to this topic and others in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ossi. Thank you both of you for these inputs. Unfortunately, our schedule is so tight that we do not have a Q&A on your inputs, but I think we all appreciate that you just said that you're happy to talk, and luckily the internet gives us multiple ways to interact with each other. Now we would start into the second part of our workshop. That is breakout sessions. These are not streamed live anymore. So to anyone watching the live stream, thank you so much for joining us. I am sure you heard and saw some very motivational and insightful talks about how we can use technology to improve our governments and thus democracy for all of us. Thank you for joining. And to the participants here in the conference, we now have 3 workshop sessions, 3 breakout groups.